Here, fragments are mini activities. We have here a simple fragment which we will later build. The whole screen, of course, is an activity, and we're going to build a fragment which belongs to that activity. You may recall that we built a project whereby we had two activities and we could communicate between the two. We could press the button and that would show us the next activity and pass data from one to the other. So we have here two activities, and the question is, can we have more than one activity appearing on the same screen? And the answer is no. So this is why we need to have fragments. A fragment can belong to more than one activity. We have here the hello blank fragment. It belongs to the first activity. If I go to the second activity, it can be used within that second activity. So it's shared between activities. Fragments cannot communicate with each other with data, but they can they need to communicate data back to an activity, and that activity can act as a call center and forward the data to the other activities, but there's no direct communication between activities. Two or more fragments can exist on the same activity. We have, you can't see the border between them, but we have two fragments here. The first fragment we can use, and it communicates with the second fragment, but not directly. It must pass through an activity. But the point here is that two fragments can appear on the same activity. So let's make a fragment, a very simple fragment, and this fragment will appear automatically when the activity starts. So we've only got one activity and one fragment which will automatically appear when the activity has started. Very primitive, the simplest we can think of to make a fragment. So let's make our usual project. We'll start a new Android Studio project, and we'll make an empty activity, and then you can call this whatever you like. It's using 19 as we usually do, and if we finish we can so when that's finished, we might as well run it by clicking the triangle at the top just to make sure that everything's working so far. We eventually get hello world being produced on our activity. If we take a look at the XML for the main activity, we don't need that text view, so we can safely delete that. We can do that by means of just deleting the XML, or you might like to go to the design view and click on that to delete it. Let's now add a fragment. So if we go onto our app and a new fragment, a blank fragment. That's good enough for us. Blank fragment is our name, and the layout name is underscore. By the way, we're not allowed to have caps in the layout name, so we can finish that, and we should produce two files. One is the XML, just like we did for the activity, and the other one is the code file. So just as for an activity, we've produced two files corresponding to each other in that we've got our blank fragment code, which is the JavaScript, the Java I should say. Then we've also got the corresponding fragment, which you can, the blank fragment XML, which you can see on the right hand side. So just as we did when we produced a new activity. Now, if we take a look at this code, it's actually quite complex. It's obviously very well organized, but it's a little bit difficult for us for the moment. Let's produce some I'm actually going to delete each of those and replace it with our own simpler code. So quite drastically, I will delete each of those, Control A, and then delete that code, and the same with the other, Control A, and delete that. So in my XML file, I can just paste this code for the moment. Oh, what's this? It's looking for a blank fragment. So this indeed is a reference to the code file which you see over here on the right, and there's nothing much in that, so it's going to complain. So let's actually take a look at this code. If you look here, there are three icons which we can click on the middle one to split the XML screen, and we can take a look at the design view of that. Now, so this is what we're producing here, this fragment. But this, of course, has been, I've done this previously by designing on this layout, and this is the code which was produced over here, the XML, so that should work just fine. Now we need to consider the corresponding code file, which I will now paste in the Java file. And immediately over here you can see that's corrected now. Blank fragment is not read anymore. So it's referring to this code file. Let me just unclutter this by clicking this icon here, so I can just see the two files side by side. If we take a look at the onCreate view, well, that was much the same as in our activity. So when we create our, when the fragment is created, this method is called. What does it do? It says here inflator. What does that mean? What's this here? This is in fact referring to this XML file over here. So when we say inflate, you could say it more or less renders the screen and shows you the fragment. If we were to run this at this stage, you wouldn't see very much. The activity is there, but it's we need to more or less attach it to the main activity. So let me take a look at the main activity. I might just close these two files and take a look at my main activity here, activity main XML. So basically I need to use that, and I've put the code in there already. That's the more or less attaching the fragment to the main activity.